right. This is a reading of How Did Hitler Happen? Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany in 1933 following a series of electoral victories by the Nazi Party. He ruled absolutely until his death by suicide in April 1945. Primary image, Adolf Hitler giving the Nazi salute at a rally in Nuremberg in 1928. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany in 1933 following a series of electoral victories by the Nazi Party. He ruled absolutely until his death by suicide in April 1945. Upon achieving power, Hitler smashed the nation's democratic institutions and transformed Germany into a war state intent on conquering Europe for the benefit of the so-called Aryan race. His invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, triggered the European phase of World War II. During the course of the war, Nazi military forces rounded up and executed 11 million victims they deemed inferior or undesirable, life unworthy of life. Among them, Jews, Slavs, homosexuals, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Hitler had supreme authority as Führer, leader or guide, but could not have risen to power or committed such atrocities on his own. He had the active support of the powerful German officer class and of millions of everyday citizens who voted for the National Socialist German Workers' Nazi Party and hailed him as the nation's savior in gigantic stadium rallies. How were Hitler and the Nazis possible? How did such odious characters take and hold power in a country that was a world peace setter in literature, art, architecture, and science, a nation that had democratic government and a free press in the 1920s? Hitler rose to power through the Nazi Party, an organization he forged after returning as a wounded veteran from the annihilating trench warfare of World War I. He and other patriotic Germans were outraged and humiliated by the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which the Allies compelled the new German government, the Weimar Republic, to accept, along with an obligation to pay $33 billion in war reparations. Germany also had to give up its prized overseas colonies and surrender valued parcels of home territory to France and Poland. The German army was radically downsized and the nation forbidden to have submarines or an air force. "We shall squeeze the German lemon until the pips squeak," explained one British official. Paying the crushing reparations destabilized the economy, producing ruinous runaway inflation. By September 1923, 4 billion German marks had the equal value of $1 American. Consumers needed a wheelbarrow to carry enough paper money to buy a loaf of bread. Hitler, a mesmerizing public speaker, addressed political meetings in Munich calling for a new German order to replace what he saw as an incompetent and inefficient democratic regime. The new order was distinguished by an authoritarian political system based on leadership structure in which authority flowed downward from a supreme national leader. In the new Germany, all citizens would unselfishly serve the state, or Volk. Democracy would be abolished, and individual rights sacrificed for the good of the Führer state. The ultimate aim of the Nazi Party was to seize power through Germany's parliamentary system, install Hitler as dictator, and create a community of racially pure Germans loyal to their Führer, who would lead them in a campaign of racial cleansing and world conquest. Either victory of the Aryan or annihilation of the Aryan and the victory of the Jew. Adolf Hitler. Hitler blamed the Weimar Republic's weakness on the influence of Germany's Jewish and communist minorities, who he claimed were trying to take over the country. There are only two possibilities, he told a Munich audience in 1922. Either victory of the Aryan or annihilation of the Aryan and the victory of the Jew. The young Hitler saw history as a process of racial struggle, with the strongest race, the Aryan race, ultimately prevailing by force of arms. Mankind has grown great in eternal war, Hitler wrote. It would decay in eternal peace. Jews represented everything the Nazis found repugnant. Finance capitalism, controlled, the Nazis believed, by powerful Jewish financiers. International communism. Karl Marx was a German Jew, and the leadership of the German Communist Party was heavily Jewish. And modernist cultural movements like psychoanalysis and swing music. Nazi Party foreign policy aimed to rid Europe of Jewish and other inferior peoples, absorb pure-blooded Aryans into a greatly expanded Germany, a Third Reich, and wage unrelenting war on the Slavic hordes of Russia, considered by Hitler to be Untermenschen, subhuman. Once conquered, the Soviet Union would be ruled by the German master race, which would exterminate or subdue millions of Slavs to create Lebensraum, living space, for their own farms and communities. In conquered and racially cleansed Russia, they would work on model farms and factories connected to the homeland by new highways called autobahns. Hitler was the ideologue as well as the chief organizer of the Nazi Party. By 1921, the party had a newspaper, an official flag, and a private army. The Sturmabteilung SA, stormtroopers, made up largely of unemployed and disenchanted World War I veterans. By 1923, the SA had grown to 15,000 men and had access to hidden stores of weapons. That year, Hitler and World War I hero General Erich Ludendorff attempted to overthrow the elected regional government of Bavaria in a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. The regular army crushed the rebellion, and Hitler spent a year in prison, in loose confinement. In Landsberg prison, Hitler dictated most of the first volume of his political autobiography, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. The book brought together, in inflamed language, the racialist and expansionist ideas he had been propagating in his popular beer hall harangues. I'm going to stop part one at this point in time.